If you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering, why doesn't everyone just create solar farms on their roof and in their backyard for the purpose of making money? I mean, surely it's an infinite money machine, right? You might think that this is a great idea since you can generate your own electricity and sell the excess to the grid, or even store it in batteries and use it later. But is it really that simple? Let's get to the bottom of this. I crunched the numbers and landed on an optimal strategy. I also found a couple examples of real-world results, one on a residential scale and one on a very, very large scale. And in doing the research, some of the things I found today actually shocked me. Let's start off with the costs. Installing a solar panel system in your backyard is not cheap. Depending on the size, quality, and location of your system, you might have to spend anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 up front. And that's not including the maintenance, repairs, and insurance costs that you will have to pay over the years. You will also need to get a permit from your local authorities and comply with their regulations. Most information online can be very vague and unclear, and I don't enjoy being vague when it comes to stuff like this. So let's crunch the numbers to see how much you would actually make. For the purposes of these calculations, we will assume we are using a Tesla solar system, one of the most cost-effective solar systems on the market. This means we are also including the Tesla Powerwall. Well, the average house uses 10,500 kilowatt hours of energy per year. In order to cover just the household's use of electricity, you would realistically need a solar system of 8.5 kilowatts in size. Something like this would cost about $19,000 to $21,000 without incentives, given $250 per watt of solar panels. Slap on the $10,400 Powerwall, and we are looking at roughly $31,650. But after the 30% federal solar tax credit, it comes out to $22,155. Keep in mind that these numbers are extremely rough estimates, and also keep in mind that this is the amount you need to power your own house, and you likely wouldn't have enough to sell back to the grid. The average annual household consumption of 10.5 thousand kilowatt hours costs $1,708 in energy bills. If a $22,155 solar system would pay for all of this, then you would break even in around 13 years. After that, electricity is free for you. But obviously, we are in the business of printing money, not just getting free stuff. In order to do this, an average house would likely need more than 8.5 kilowatts of solar installation. So now we are looking at more like 10 kilowatts. With this setup, you are getting more energy from the sun than you could possibly use in the span of a year. You can likely pump out an excess of 1,000 kilowatt hours of electricity to the grid every year. Given our 16 cent per kilowatt hour exchange rate with the grid, we get $160 per year. Now, what if we want more? It seems like if you know your wattage of installation and cost per kilowatt hour, you can calculate how long your payoff period is and how much you could make yearly. This can be seen in this graph I made in Desmos. The payoff period is influenced by how much electricity you produce, along with how much you paid for your setup. Wherever this line intersects the x-axis, that is how many years it takes for you to pay off the panels. We are going to assume you sell all excess to the grid, which may or may not be possible. Also, 1 to 1.23 is the average ratio I found between watts of installation and kilowatt hours per year you could possibly output. And for really sunny places like Florida, you can jack this up to 1 to 1.8. And we will start at the average values we established earlier. Now let's look at how much wattage affects your payoff period. As expected, it seems like decreasing the wattage increases the payoff period, and increasing wattage decreases the payoff period, but only to a certain point. Let's take a look at how your city cents per kilowatt hour affects your payoff period. It seems like having cheaper electricity rates in your city prolongs the payoff period, and having more expensive electricity would shorten the payoff period because we are now getting more bang for our buck. Also, if you are feeling fancy, you can implement your solar panels with auto-tracking technology. This is where the solar panel automatically moves itself to constantly face the sun. Single-axis systems can improve efficiency by 25 to 35%, and double-axis systems can improve efficiency by 45%. And this can potentially be huge for profit. Keep in mind that these values assume that nothing goes wrong with your system, that the price of electricity doesn't change drastically, and that the policies and incentives don't change either. One video I do recommend taking a look at for more insight is Marcus Brownlee's Tesla solar roof video. Here is a rundown of his numbers. He spent $92,760 for a 29.313 kilowatt solar system along with 3 power walls. He says that he uses 54,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per year, costing $9,663. And at this rate, he would pay off his electricity in 9.6 years. But wait, 9.6 years is a lot shorter than the estimated time we just calculated, 14 years. So why is this? How can he have a shorter payoff period, especially when using a luxury item such as the solar roof tiles? Marcus says that this is because he uses a lot more electricity than the average household, so his payoff period is shorter. Maybe Marcus was onto something. I spent hours trying to figure out how his numbers fit into my equation. I pondered adding a usage slider to my equation and trying to make it make sense. I only ended up adding a usage slider to determine how many power walls you would need. Other than that, your usage doesn't directly affect your numbers. The truth is that the numbers in his video were BS. There was a bug in the Tesla app at the time of making his video where it displayed double the production and usage totals. So instead of 54,000 kilowatt hours of usage a year, he's actually using 27,000. And like I said earlier, as long as you are selling excess back to the grid, your personal usage doesn't affect your payback period. And instead of generating an average of 8,000 kilowatt hours per month, he generated 4,000. He also says that doubling the production and usage amounts cancels each other out, not impacting the payoff period. And a lot of commenters tended to disagree, saying that it would actually double, but it turns out Marquez is correct in this matter, as long as he sells excess back to the grid. Let's look at what Marcus Brownlee's actual payoff period would be. Firstly, based off his numbers and where he lives, I calculated his electricity cost to be around 17.7 cents per kilowatt hour. I also found that his ratio between kilowatt hours per year to installed wattage is more like 1.63 instead of our global average of 1.23. If he kept the same wattage of installation but used generic solar panels, he would pay them off in only 9.12 years. But since he purchased luxury solar roof tiles, and we also know exactly how much he spent for his entire setup, we can replace the entire right side of the equation with a value of around $92,000. When we do this, we see that his payoff period will jump to around 10.9 years. But the Tesla roof tiles do maximize the wattage that the roof can hold. And if he wanted to get the same wattage with generic panels, he would have to set up solar in his backyard. So with this information, I am willing to say that your decision to buy solar panels should primarily be based on your electricity bill. If you have high electricity rates in your city, you should really consider going solar. Other factors like location and daylight hours are also important, but I would say that they are secondary. And by the way, I haven't even talked about financing a solar system. I did not want to get too much into it because of all the variables involved, whether it be credit scores, differing APR rates, tax rules, etc. But in general, I found that even if you finance your system, your payoff period may be pushed back by 2 years, but you still simply pay less on electricity per month as long as your APR isn't anything above 5%. The details of this math are beyond the scope of this video.
Okay, so why isn't every homeowner going solar? Seriously, if this seems like such a no-brainer, why aren't we seeing as much residential solar? I can come up with 6 reasons for this. Well, here's the deal. The 13-year break-even point is at odds with the 13.2-year median time of living in a house. Not to mention, most people's horizons for trying to make money are a lot shorter than this. Friction. A lot of homeowners still favor the plug-and-play model for energy, and they don't want to deal with uncertainty, installations, and more paperwork. Lack of awareness or misinformation. Some still believe solar is only for the wealthy or that it doesn't work on cloudy days. Others don't realize that financing options exist with $0 down and lower monthly payments than their utility bill. If you know anybody that falls into this category, send them this video. Location freedom. Some prioritize immediate flexibility and location freedom over long-term ROI. High upfront costs and credit barriers. Even with financing, solar often requires a down payment or good credit. Some homeowners may not qualify for loans or may be wary of taking on new debt. It's illegal. Well, solar itself is not illegal, but the excess scale desired for profits is not allowed in most U.S. states. They will audit your home and usage and give you a maximum wattage quota for installation. Some states like Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Georgia have hard limits. Though many homeowners have complained a lot about this, states claim that they do this to prevent destabilizing the grid. Florida lets you install wattage for 120% of your usage. And some states like California, Colorado, Arizona, and Texas don't really have installation restrictions at all, at the time of making this video at least. However, this doesn't mean there isn't money to be made. There are many large-scale investors taking advantage of solar. A lot of investors are buying cheap land, mostly unsuitable for agriculture, in very sunny areas and spamming solar panels everywhere. At this scale, there's millions of dollars to be made. If we were in the shoes of a millionaire solar investor, let's first try to calculate the costs. 1. How much would the land cost? 5 megawatts of solar installation takes up about 25 acres of land. And if you are going this big, you might as well do it in a sunny state. The top 10 sunniest states: Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas, California, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, Utah, and Florida. The average cost per acre of land throughout these 10 states is $10,668. So that's $266,000 for the 25 acres. And we are looking at $12.5 million for the panels. But what about the battery costs? According to ChatGPT, a typical rule of thumb is 1 to 2 kilowatt-hours of storage per kilowatt of solar capacity. So we are looking at roughly 7.5 megawatt-hours of battery storage. And so that is roughly 2 Tesla megapacks, each holding 3.9 megawatt-hours of storage. Each megapack is roughly $1.2 million, so you should add $2.4 million to your costs. So up front, you have $12.5 million for the panels, plus $2.4 million for batteries. Subtract the 30% federal solar tax, and that would be $10.43 million, plus the $266,000 for the land. In total, you can get an estimated 8.76 million kilowatt-hours per year of energy produced, which amounts to $1.4 million per year. So this ends at a 7.6-year payoff period. And this is probably going to be longer if you consider labor costs, legal costs, and the costs of installing transformers and other useful infrastructure. But what would happen if everybody tried doing this? If everyone tried generating electricity for the purpose of selling excess to the grid? Well, here's the deal. We must account for the laws of supply and demand. If more and more solar capacity is being installed and used, then the entire grid will see a supply surplus, thus bringing the cost of electricity down. This lowered cost could potentially extend the time it takes to pay off the investment of your solar system. But then again, there is more and more demand for energy with the advent of AI, robotics, and crypto. To predict the impact of supply and demand, we can just look at the trend of inflation-adjusted electricity costs, which have been slightly coming down. As you can see, it is almost flat. The supply of energy is just barely outpacing the demand. But with all the new technology these days, it's possible that the demand will start overshadowing the supply. But aggregate solar installation is growing steadily anyways, with or without the advent of residential solar. Residential installation currently makes up for about 18% of total solar installation. This is why the cost of solar energy is plummeting in recent years. More and more investment has gone into this, and solar panels have gotten cheaper and cheaper to make. Solar cells are being installed just as fast as they are being manufactured. So, with this information, I would say that the laws of supply and demand are not going to eat too much into your profits, and this should not sway your decision if you are going to start long-term solar projects. So that's the economics of it all. Go ride the wave of the solar revolution. And by the way, due to the Trump administration's policies, that 30% solar tax credit will be going away at the end of 2025. So do with that as you will. If you do decide to go all in on this, just keep in mind that I am not an expert, nor have I ever owned any solar panels. I just did a lot of research for this video to provide some back-of-the-napkin calculations. I urge you to do your own research, and also check out some of the videos linked in the description because I think they can be extremely helpful to you. One of the videos is from Tran, where he talks about how some solar sales companies use predatory practices and extremely high interest rates to end up costing you more money. And the Desmos calculator I cooked up today is available on my Patreon for free. And if you are feeling up to it, feel free to donate while you're there. Even $1 a month helps out a lot.